what is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
All right, what is it? Is it Monday? Is it Monday? No, wait a second. It's not Monday. It's Tuesday. Holy crap. What the hell's going on? My brain is broken yet again. All right. It's Tuesday night. That means it's the Tuesday night Radio Baloney Live. I'm your host, Richie Baloney. Let's see. Travis, how you doing? Third like, good karma, the same. Third like. Where's everybody else? Well, you still get that good karma. Let me just check something here quickly. I'm seeing something concerning on the back end of the stream here. Let's see. No, we're running. We're going. Okay. Now let's see. It looks like my chat is not coming up on the screen for some reason. And yep, it is not. And I don't know why. Looks like we've got some little issue on the back end, but I mean, the stream's working apparently. So, okay, but no chat on the screen. Oh, well, we'll just have to deal with that. Let's see. How's it them? How you doing? Good to see you. So we'll get to the news in a second. First off, you may have noticed we've got a new boating video for the channel. So we like the boating videos about boats on here, and we've got a new one. So I'd like to keep introducing fresh material, fresh boating content onto the show because it's just a nice break. It's a nice palate cleanser from all the news, because the news can be really depressing sometimes. But let's go to the menu. Let's go through everything we're going to talk about tonight very quickly, and then we'll go back to the chat, and then we will go into these stories in detail. So what are we going to talk about first? Well, we got some more liberal spending. It looks like we're going to have a new prime minister in Canada this week. Mark Carney has been elected within the Liberal Party as their new leader. So a man who has never been elected to office, public office in Canada, who's never been an MP. He's not an MP now. He's never been an MP. Nobody's ever voted for him. He's going to be the next prime minister. Justin Trudeau is still prime minister now. He's going to step down officially at some point this week. It looks like maybe this weekend. Then Mark Carney will officially become the next prime minister of Canada. And it doesn't really look like much is going to change in terms of just burning huge piles of Canadian money. So here we have one. This is just from March 10th, from yesterday. Government of Canada announces $272 million to Bangladesh to fill in U.S. AID gap for intersectional democratic spaces in Bangladesh. Whole bunch of stuff. We're going to go all through it, all this stuff, and it's exactly what you'd expect. I'm sure Mark Carney probably gave his okay, or maybe he didn't. Maybe Mark Carney is going to be one of those guys who just has absolutely no idea what's going on. As long as it's woke, it's good. We've got some more as well. Here's $25 million for renewed women's voice and leadership all over the place, all over the world. It's just enormous amounts of wasted money on things that I think are just not Canada's business. Just not Canada's business. Oh, it looks like we do have the chat working suddenly. Oh, you know what it's working for? It's working for YouTube and only YouTube. So what I'm going to do, if we can't have Rumble up on the screen too, I'm just going to turn that off. All right. Let's see. All right. So lots of wasted money in Canada. Nothing's going to change with Mark Carney. It's going to be all the same woke, crazy, enviro bullshit. It's not going to stop. I saw this today. 69% of Canadians have a favorable view of the European Union compared to 34% who view the U.S. favorably. Might explain why close to half of Canadians say they would support joining the EU. This would be the stupidest thing. Only Canada could be this stupid. And we'll go into the reasons why this is a totally idiotic idea. And there's lots of reasons. Well, that's idiotic. We're going to talk about the Trump tariffs. So Doug Ford was threatening to put the surcharge, 25% surcharge on electricity going to the States. And then Trump said, well, steel tariffs are going up to 50%. And then he said, well, maybe not. Maybe we won't do that. It's just more idiocy. I don't like. I have been a Trump supporter because I think that philosophically it's the right way for the Western world to go. But I'm not a big fan of these tariffs, which, are really just kind of amounting to election interference at this point. It's not helping. All of this renegotiations could have been done at a later point, and it would have been better for everybody. But I'm also not happy about the Canadian government's response. I think it's also being idiotic. Let's see. Mark Carney. Yeah, we're going to talk about Mark Carney, of course. He's the new prime minister. Not officially yet, but that's coming. We'll talk about him. I'm not a fan of him, by the way. I don't like him either. Let's see. Pierre Poilievre is responding to all of this. What's happening right now? We will take a few clips from him talking about it. And then we have some woke mind virus stuff. So I'll just save this. I'm not even going to describe what this is from Colin right here. I'll just save it for you. And what the heck is that? What the heck is going on there? Hold on a second. I think I got a button for this on the Stream Deck. Where is it?
The age of men is over. The time of the orc has come.
All right. Hey, we got Rosie in the chat. Good to see ya. All right, so we'll take a look at that, and we've got a bunch of stuff in the last tab. We've got comedy, we've got just weird stuff like this, and some political stuff in there, some memes, all the usual stuff we end off the show with usually. All right, here we have Eli Manning beating the greatest women's basketball player of all time in a basketball shooting completion, a competition. And he does it fairly easily, which is, well, it just is. We got some Jimmy Dore in there. We've got, now this giant snakes. You guys know my opinion on these snakes, really just any snakes. He's doing this wrong. Now, the correct way to do this is that you stand off at a safe distance and then spray gasoline onto it and then light it on fire. And then if your house catches fire because of it, well, that's just the brakes. That's the brakes. That's the way it goes. You've got to burn the snake, though. Got to burn it. The snake has to go. Eventually, it's going to eat him, by the way. Look at the size of it. He could fit in there. No problem. They're really stretchy. All right, so that's it. Not too much on the docket tonight. Let's see. All right, so Rumbum, how you doing? Good to see ya. Terry Conspiracy, good to see ya. Let's see. Terry says PM Mark Carney is on the foundation board of the World Economic Forum. Well, he stepped away from that before he decided to run for prime minister. Once the election's done and he loses, he'll be going back to all these boards again, by the way. He'll be on the board of the WF again. He'll be back with the UN. He'll be back with Brookfield again. Let's see. Premier Ford was removed from the WEF website on February 22nd, 2022. Probably at his request because he just thinks it looks bad. But what is the difference with him, really? Ford, he's not really a conservative. He's a progressive conservative. Let's see. What else you guys saying? Rosie says, propaganda machine selling Europe over U.S. It's unbelievably stupid, and I'll get into why it's stupid. I mean, for the we'll never lose our sovereignty to the United States people who immediately turn around and go, let's lose our sovereignty to the EU. It's truly bizarre. Our retarded chicks, how you doing? Good to see you at the chat. All right. Uh-oh. Gemma says, Doug tasted the they-them energy and had to back down. He sure did. Doug had this.
They-them energy. They-them energy. They-them energy. They-them energy.
Actually, looks a little bit like him too, I gotta say. Rumbum says, God, what have I joined into? Let's see. Rumbum says, never. Snakes, spiders, and scorpions are the shit. I burn all of them. All of them must be burned. Cleansed. Cleansed. Cleansed by fire. Let's see. Rumbum says, Ford is a joke. Pretty sure his brother, it was Rob Ford, right? Was better, although I don't really remember him much. Let's see. Turtle says, how you doing, Turtles? Good to see you. Game on Trump. You can't turn off electricity, Ontario. I did look into this, and it would not be a disaster for, I think there's 3 northern states that use Ontario electricity. There's actually, I mean, the U.S. has a giant grid. There's all kinds of backups. It would be an adjustment period of a couple of weeks. Maybe you'd see prices rise by 10, 20%, but not really much. I'd be very surprised if that's not already been put into place, to be honest. So Canada's making much more of a deal out, and the media too, than it actually is. It's not actually that big of a deal. I mean, somebody living in, like, 1-bedroom apartment or something, it's not going to notice the difference. And like everything in the States, everything, it's, I think energy is cheaper in the States, just like everything is anyway. So this is not the big dramatic thing that it's being made out to be. And it was immediately retracted as soon as Trump talked about reciprocal tariffs on steel and aluminum, right? So that lasted about 5 minutes. The Tough Guy Act lasted about 5 minutes. I think it's all stupid. This whole thing is making me sick, to be honest. Let's see. Rumbum says, I thought it was an unwritten rule that we are never to reference the they-them energy, so radio never plays the clip again. And Turtles is getting right back into it again. Well, I don't know. I'll give you guys what you want.
They, them, energy. They, them, energy. They, them, energy. They, them, energy.
I don't feel like it's that impressive, the they-them energy. Like, I think I've seen other energy that's more energetic, frankly. It's not like I see that and go, I want to be her. I want to be there right now. Oh, my wasted youth. I could have been there at the they-them energy shows. It's not that compelling, I have to admit. I mean, they need to do a better sales pitch for all this they-them energy stuff. That's not good enough. Rumbum says that fat teapot pose at the end gets me every time. Rosie says, new tactic. If I ignore it, it will go away. It will go away. Well, that's what everybody has to do. If you guys know that I forget what's on the stream deck, so that if you guys don't mention it, I will never bring it up again. Like, I forgot about this.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
I didn't play that for like months. There's tons of them. How about this one?
What absolute twaddle.
When's the last time you heard that? Probably like 6 months. Right? I've already forgotten about this one.
I don't really care, Margaret.
So, I mean, and there's a ton of them. So if you guys don't bring them up, I just will never use them again because I just forget. I just forget to use them, even though they're right there. Do you guys remember this one? I should probably take this actually off the stream deck because I don't need it anymore. That was a good one. That was a good one. That was the most fruitful 10 minutes I've ever spent in my life creating that. Rumbum says, that is a slice of heaven on a boat. Where? Oh, there's a person on it. Oh, you're right. Oh, I hadn't noticed that. I'd just been totally focused on the boat. On the boating show. I thought, what a nice boating program. What nice boating programming. Really nice boat. But I didn't even notice. But you're right, actually. Quite fetching indeed. Quite fetching indeed. All right. Now what are we doing? I guess we should probably just get to the show, I guess. All right, let's just do that. All right, so what liberal spending? They love to spend, they love to waste money. This one is just this was announced. Okay, so what do we got here? From Table Salt, the government of Canada announces $272 million to Bangladesh to fill in the USAID gap for intersectional democratic spaces in Bangladesh, gender responsive and inclusive education, community resilience through locally led inclusive adaptation. I brought it up. Here we go. So when did this actually come out? So this came out on the 9th of March this year. Nothing is going to change with a new liberal leader. They are going to continue to print money and then send that money around the world while we have to pay the interest on the money that they printed and that they loaned. Aren't Canadians sick of this yet? It'd be nice if the media would mention something. Of course they won't. Of course the media won't mention anything because, the Liberals are seen as the gravy train. Backgrounder, Minister Hassan announces support for development projects in Bangladesh and the Indo-Pacific region. I've said it before. Development projects in Bangladesh and the Indo-Pacific region are none of Canada's business. $272 million in funding for 14 projects. Let's see. Integrated climate adaptation solutions for the Hindu Kush Himalaya region. Let me repeat that. Integrated climate adaptation solutions for the Hindu Kush Himalaya region. I say that integrated climate adaptation solutions for the Hindu Kush Himalaya region are none of Canada's business. Let's see, of course, working primarily with women because best is fabulous ever. Renewable energy technology, of course. Green, women. LGBTQ+, increase the climate change resilience of 30,000 households. What does that mean? I guarantee they're not going, whatever they're intending to do, it's not going to happen. Community resilience through locally led inclusive adaptation, unique challenges women and girls face. It's just like they just look for things that they can include buzzwords into and just say, throw $300 million at it. Empowering women in the nursing sector in Bangladesh. Why is this any of our business? Gender-related barriers. Civic engagement fund in Bangladesh. Women, youth, marginalized communities. Let's see. Advancing decent work in Bangladesh. $127 million over 4 years. Advancing decent work in Bangladesh is none of Canada's business. Of course, you got to get the gender equality in there. Canada's pledge for the replenishment of the Asian Development Bank's Asian Development Fund. The replenishment of the Asian Development Bank Asian Development Fund is none of Canada's business, and neither is their gender equality. Oh, here we go. Gender responsive and inclusive vocational educational training, especially girls and women. What about the men there? Do we not care about them? Like, if you're going to just throw away our money, which is probably all just going to be wasted anyway, just stolen, right? If you're going to do that, why not just help everybody? Why does the virtue signaling need to reach so deep? I'm sure that it's terrible for Bangladeshi boys and men as well. I think it's just generally terrible is the thing. And guess what? I have zero confidence that Justin Trudeau or Mark Carney is going to solve that problem. International Center for Diarrheal Disease Research. So, International Center for Diarrhea Disease Research. They're in Sri Lanka. They're eating Indian food. There's nothing we can do about it. We'd have to give them all different food. They're eating Indian food every day, every meal. There's nothing we can do about the diarrhea. It doesn't mention anything in here about that either. So, what the hell are you going to do? I mean, just look at all this. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Why was this any of our business? Why are we colonizing them? Right? Left is supposed to be against colonizing other cultures with all our white supremacy and genocide and everything, right? Like, why are we trying to? Why is this all right? Aren't we colonizing them? Aren't we? Why are we telling them how what they should be doing regarding, women or LGBT or any of that stuff? How is that any of our business? That's colonization. We're colonizing them. We're oppressing them. Leave them alone. Afghanistan. Guess what? I mean, how many hundreds of billions of dollars went into Afghanistan? And Canada was involved in Afghanistan as well. Guess what? They're still not into gender studies. Still, decades later, hundreds of billion, like $1 trillion, they're still not interested in gender studies. After all that time, they've kind of made up their mind. Maybe Bangladesh has as well. I don't know. All I'm saying is I thought we were against colonization with all of our evil, Western colonization, white supremacy ideas, right? Apparently it's all whiteness, right? And white supremacy and all of that. I mean, why are we trying to push that on Sri Lankans and Bangladeshis or Afghanis or anything? Maybe just let them make up their own mind. Because we don't actually seem to make them any more woke anyway. So super dumb. Let's see. Canada, a socialist country like Canada, punishes the most productive members of society with a massive tax and then takes that tax to spend it on ridiculous causes like this. Well, they also borrow money that interest has to be paid on to do this. $25 million on designing spaces for trans people in Africa. Socialism sucks. Well, I pulled up this one too. Let's see. Renewed women's voice and leadership, but it's usually not even about women. They just throw women in there, but it's usually about something else. It's usually about not women. It supports women's rights organizations, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex plus. What is intersex plus exactly? Groups and feminist networks. So this is the... Let's see. Urgent Action Fund Africa. I say let Africa figure it out themselves. Did they even ask us? That's aside from the fact that all this money is probably just going to be wasted, right? It's probably just going to be stolen. It's probably mostly fraud. 25 million. 25 million. All right. Start and end dates. Let's see. So this was just January this year, January 16, going to 2030. So this isn't going to stop. Mark Carney's talking about how he's going to cut spending. No, he's not. I mean, he'll cut spending on maybe things Canadians need, but all this bullshit? Absolutely not. He is a progressive. He's a radical progressive. He's woke. He told us that. He told us about how, he's not going to be like that Trump, with the war on woke. No. Canada loves woke. Mark Carney loves woke. It's all going to be the exact same shit done by the exact same people behind him as Trudeau had behind him. You can see it. Nothing is going to change. Not with a Carney. Not that I think Carney is going to win. All right. Exposing programs is only half the battle. So, Marty, up north, we need to expose the people responsible for the waste. Global Affairs falls under Melanie Joly. According to LinkedIn alone, almost 6,000 people work for Global Affairs. Check out some of their job titles. Well, what's some of this money here? Let's see. Global Affairs Canada has been using Canadian tax dollars to fund abortions in foreign countries to the tune of $63 million. That's just ghoulish. Why do we need to do that? What was on here? I can't do this. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, World Economic Forum, of course. We've been through this before. Just millions and millions on World Economic Forum over the years. Of course, Mark Carney was on the board of the World Economic Forum. All right, let's move on. Let's get to the chat quickly, and then we'll move on again. Hold on. Let's go back to the boating show. What are we, 27 minutes in? It's going to be a short one tonight, I think, for sure. And I'm not just crying wolf there. I think it's going to be a short one. And I got to figure out another time to do the next premium only stream as well. I don't know when. Let's see. Turtle says that everything woke turns to shit. Now somebody said that once.
Everything woke turns to shit.
It's still true. Rumbum says, correction, they love to spend our money, definitely not their own. Yep. Turtle says money laundering day. It says update. No time for updates. Rumbum says, let's say Pierre, or better yet, the PPC win, Maxime Bernier, are they able to do a Doge without a bunch of blocking or BS, or is it even worse here? Well, of course, there would be a huge media outcry and a freak out. That it's going to be necessary because there's so much wasted money in Canada from the Trudeau government. But it'll be difficult. There'll be a huge outcry from the media. 100%. Every unhinged leftist will be freaking out. Something like that's going to be necessary. They will have to, if Pierre gets in, he will have to do some of that. He'll want to. I mean, he's predisposed to wanting to cut out woke bullshit. I mean, the woke stuff would have to be the first to go. If he doesn't, it's going to be very, very disappointing. We'll just have to see. Let's see. Turtle says InfoWar anchor was murdered. What was he researching? He was looking into. Was he an anchor? I thought he was just like kind of like a field reporter. I haven't looked into it deeply, but I did hear about it, and he was looking into. What was he looking into? I did hear. Oh, Ukraine. I think he was looking at where the money was going. And he was on a list of he was on the Ukrainian enemies list as well. Everybody who says anything is on it. Tim Pool's on that as well. Some people call it a hit list. Is it explicitly a hit list? No, but it's a list of enemies, right? So you can take that for what you will. Turtle says, our senators flew to Ukraine the same time X was hacked. Conspiracy theory. Well, Elon Musk said that the IPs were what is it? The IPs? My brain isn't working. Anyway, it was traced back to Ukraine. Elon Musk says it was the source of it was traced back to Ukraine. I'm hearing what I think are credible voices saying this was not some low-level attack, as the media is claiming. No, this was a state. It would need state resources because X is designed for the fire hose, for the masses, like millions of interactions going on a second. So not some guy with some little botnet thing in his basement is not going to be able to do it. It's a state actor. And if Elon Musk says that, I mean, he knows what he's talking about. I mean, I have no reason to believe that over some professor that they bring out, some professor at some university that they bring out to just say bad things about anybody that the left doesn't like and can be counted on to do that. There are people, I mean, that there are many. We've seen them all. We've seen them, right? They're just waiting. They're on deck for whoever to bring them out, CNN or whatever, or the New York Times wants to quote them, to just bring them out when they just reliably want somebody to say something politically correct. Let's see. Rumbum wants to leave them and tax money alone, sending it all over the world. Exactly. Let them eat their favorite foods. Well, it's none of our business. Let's stop. I thought it was colonialism. I thought we're supposed to stop with our cultural colonialism. Turtle says that Kim Kardashian said she was autosex or something trashy like that. I don't know what that means. Maybe we'll look into it. In fact, let's look into it right now. What the hell?
Fact check.
Let's see. Kourtney Kardashian comes out as autosexual. Does that just mean slut? Let's see. Kourtney Kardashian comes out as autosexual. Here's what it means. Let's see. She received praise from her fans, of course. I'm a made-up thing. Praise me. American socialite and media personality Kourtney Kardashian has identified herself as an autosexual. Well, that was back in 2020. So when is this article from? This is from March 16th, 2024. So this is actually old news, although I'd never heard it because I think my mind just automatically shuts off as soon as I see anything like Kardashian related. Oh, God damn it. Okay, this is a useless useless site there. Okay. Okay, how about this one? So what does it mean? This is what autosexual means. Okay. This is from March 2024. Let's see. She's saying that most women are, even if it's just a little, and she's talking about autosexual there. Does she like to do it in cars? Or is it just she's a slut? I don't know. Being autosexual is described as a trait wherein one is turned on by engaging in their own eroticism. Basically, when a woman is more aroused when she feels truly sexy within herself. So when you feel confident, you feel more attractive. Wow, that's just every single person. Wow, congratulations. She's so unique. That's so interesting. She's so quirky. I hate celebrities. I can't stand celebrities. G-Flat says autosex individuals can go fuck themselves. This is why celebrity has been so downgraded that nobody cares about it anymore. Nobody cares about celebrities anymore because they got social media and then they can start telling people what they actually think. And then also too, we just have like a class of celebrities now too that aren't anything. Like, what are the Kardashians actually? Are they just famous for being famous? Is that it? Are they just famous for tricking people into paying attention to them? I don't know. But anyway, let's move on. Let's get on with the news. All right, here we go. 69% of Canadians, 69% of Canadians have a favorable view of the European Union, compared to 34% who view the U.S. favorably. Let me reread that. 69% of Canadians have a favorable view of the European Union, compared to 34% who view the U.S. favorably. That's because Canadians have been brainwashed and their brains have been turned to mush. Being right next to the United States, having this big, big, beautiful border with the United States is just an unimaginable blessing to Canada. Being right next door to the biggest economy in the world. It's incredible good fortune for everybody who lives here. Obviously. How many countries would like that? Hey, guess what's on either side? There's oceans. Oceans. It's incredibly beneficial to Canada to be right next door to this massive economy, the biggest economy in the world, right? A sane government would look for ways to maximize the benefit from that. Sane people would recognize that, right? Hey, we're not right next door to the European Union, and guess what? They're a basket case. It says here, might explain why close to half of Canadians say they would support joining the EU. Really? We're right next door to the biggest economy in the world. Okay? We're not right next door to Europe. Surprising share of Canadians support EU membership. New polling suggests Canadians are rapidly warming up to the idea of joining the European Union for March 11th, 2025. Idiotic. Amidst the newly found trade war with the United States, Canadians have been looking for alternative solutions to our ongoing economic woes. While there are plenty of ways we could reduce our reliance on the Americans, some Canadians have started looking across the Atlantic. A new question has emerged. Should Canada seek membership in the European Union? New polling from Abacus Data suggests Canadians are more supportive of the idea than one might think. More supportive. Why would it be more supportive than you think? It's because the idea is terrible and retarded. So, Team Canada right now, right? All these politicians pretending that, like, I don't know what they think, that Trump's going to invade Canada or something, but talking about we're never going to be the 51st state, blah, blah, blah. We'll never give up our sovereignty. We'll never give up our sovereignty. 3 seconds later, let's give up our sovereignty. 5 seconds later, let's give up our sovereignty. Let's join the EU. EU sovereignty is such a big issue right now. Let's see how that would go with the EU. Let's see. I asked, in what ways does the EU override the sovereignty of its member states? Tariffs, immigration, etc. The European Union overrides the sovereignty of its member states in several ways, as member states delegate certain powers to EU institutions to achieve collective goals like economic integration, political stability, and coordinated policymaking. So, political stability, that translates as draconian censorship of dissent, and just deciding that, we don't like a party that a country's elected, so we're just not going to let that happen. Let's see, tariffs and trade, how it overrides sovereignty. The EU operates as a customs union, meaning member states surrender control over their external trade policies. Well, we won't even have to worry about it anymore. Just join the EU. I'm sure they'll do well by us. The European Commission negotiates trade agreements and sets common external tariffs for all 27 member states. So yes, great idea. Let's So do Canadians want sovereignty or not? Because it kind of sounds like maybe they don't. Individual countries cannot impose their own tariffs on imports from non-EU countries or negotiate bilateral trade deals independently. So is this what Canadians want? Or do they know? Here's the thing. They have no idea, right? They just think, I'll just be able to travel freely around Europe. That's what they're thinking. They don't know about any of this. They don't know that this would actually be giving up your sovereignty. That's why Brexit happened. If Germany wanted to impose a special tariff on Chinese steel to protect its industries, it couldn't. Really, that's interesting. It's bound by the EU's unified trade policy. The EU's 2023 tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles up to 35% apply uniformly across all members. Immigration. Now, you may have heard quite a bit about immigration in the EU and how Europeans hate it. They hate the immigration policies there, but there doesn't seem to be anything they can do about it because they're part of this EU thing, and apparently there's no democracy there anymore. And you better not talk about it on social media because you're going to get a knock on the door from the police. Literally, that will happen. How it overrides sovereignty. Immigration is a shared competence, but the EU exerts significant influence, especially on external borders and asylum policy. The Schengen Agreement eliminates internal border controls for 29 European countries. meaning states can't fully control who enters once someone is inside the Schengen area. The EU also sets rules for asylum and visa policies from non-EU nationals. Dublin regulation, it says there. Interesting. I've seen a lot of videos out of Ireland where people are losing their minds because of what's being done to them. Example, Hungary's attempt to block asylum seekers during the 2015 migrant crisis clashed with EU rules, leading to legal battles with the European Court of Justice. The ECJ ruled in 2020 that Hungary's border policies violated EU law. But Canada's never going to give up its sovereignty, except to the EU, because a teleprompter reader on the evening news told them to. Limits. Internal immigration policies remain more under national control, but EU citizens' free movement rights override national preferences to restrict them. Essentially, what will happen on immigration is that the EU will just say, you're taking in 5 million people from Syria now, and do it. And if you don't, we're going to make it hard for you, and everybody's going to call you far-right neo-Nazis, white supremacists, whatever, like with Hungary. Legislation and regulation, how it overrides sovereignty. The EU can pass laws, regulations, and directives that are binding on member states, often superseding national legislation. So you're going to have a bunch of people that you've never voted for deciding how you live in your country. Canada will never give up its sovereignty unless we join the EU, and then we're fine with that. Then that's awesome. The level of stupidity on display these days it's just astonishing. Just totally astonishing. But I mean, I guess on the plus side, we won't even be able to control what tariffs are set on us or what we set on others anyway. So it doesn't matter. I guess that's the benefit is that we won't even get to decide what to do with tariffs anymore, right? They'll make up their minds for us. They'll make up our minds for us. Let's see. Let's get to the chat. All right, hold on. Let's get back to here again. Back to the boating show. Rumbum says, you talk about the Kardashian autosexual woman. Man, these people that come up with this shit to feel special just comes off like a 12-year-old trying to come up with a deep philosophical quotes. Exactly. It's just embarrassing high school socialist poetry. Turtle says, if Rosie fled to Ireland, we don't give two shits. Who, Rosie O'Donnell? Must be Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah, who cares? The air just got fresher in the United States the second she left. Rumbum says, if Canada joins the EU, I am so fucking gone because that's the end of Canada. It's hard enough living with how the idiots here vote like brain dead, blind as sheep. I think people are going to be very surprised in this next election. I don't think it's going to go well for Carney. And I think it might reaffirm some hope for sane Canadians. That's my thoughts. I mean, we've seen, I think there's comparables in 1984 and 1993 where the election looked like it might go a very different way than the way it actually did. Typically, Canadians, after long enough of the same government, tend to vote them out en masse and just totally wreck the party for a couple of cycles. Let's see. Jaham says, sadly, ego will cause Canada more suffering than necessary. If they called Trump and asked for a little time to safely unwind their tariffs against the U.S., Trump would do it. Well, I think you're right, first off, Jaham. I've been saying, okay, cooler heads need to prevail. Like, be cool. Don't freak out. Don't fall into the trap, right? Trump can't lose this. He can't. Like, there's no way he can lose it, right? Like, it's just 10 times bigger economy. Nowhere near. we could create some damage. We could cause some damage temporarily to the U.S. economy, not enough that most Americans would even notice it happening. In the meantime, while all of this is going on, I guarantee you've got Canadian companies weighing the cost benefit analysis of just moving from Canada, where Mark Carney, if he wins, has promised to increase business taxes and taxes on industry, his shadow carbon tax, right? Well, Donald Trump is got arms wide open to the world saying, bring your businesses here. I'm going to treat you right. Lower taxes. He's going to facilitate everything for you. Going to streamline all of the regulations. Right, so Trump's laughing through all this. He can't lose. In a year's time, right, we're seeing billions and billions of dollars of investment moving into the States. Right, there's new announcements like every day. So he's just laughing. Right, none of what we're doing. We're just trying to make ourselves feel good. That's not me. But Canadians that are engaging in this silliness and this delusion, the fantasy, are just trying to make themselves feel good. Meanwhile, Trump is laughing, and Americans are going to be laughing. Like, the smart thing to do for Canada would be to not retaliate, to be very calm, and just keep repeating, we'd like to renegotiate the USMCA. It's coming up for review for renegotiation in 2026 anyway. Say, we'd like to negotiate it now a year early, right? And just keep repeating that message. Go on US TV and say, yes, we understand there's concerns. We would like to sit down and formally renegotiate this. Show some discipline, essentially, right? Don't just be cynical. I mean, if they're accusing Trump of doing this for politics, they're obviously doing it for politics as well. There's an election coming up. You just had a leadership race for the Liberal Party, right? It's clearly politics, playing politics. Doug Ford obviously is playing politics. He looks thrilled. He looks happy, actually. He seems like he's really in his element with all of this. But a sensible approach would be to just not say anything, just play it cool. Don't act emotionally. You never make good decisions when you're emotional. Play it cool. Say, we want to renegotiate. The USMCA is coming up in 2026. We'd like to do it earlier. Get on American TV and just keep saying that. Don't push retaliatory tariffs that are only going to hurt Canadians. And plus, we've already seen Doug Ford says he's going to put a 25% surcharge on American electricity. Trump says, well, actually, we're going to increase tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum by 50% now. And then 3 seconds later, Doug Ford says, forget what I said. No, we're not doing that. I didn't even say anything. Somebody said it. Did somebody say that? No, we're not doing that. It's all retarded. Just stop. Act like adults. I'm not happy with Pierre Poilievre's response to all this as well, with the saber rattling. I don't think that's smart either. They're basically all just speaking with one voice. The difference with Poilievre is that just his economic philosophy is fundamentally better than any of the other ones. So, what he will do behind that rhetoric in terms of actually creating a business-friendly environment where businesses can thrive, where business can thrive, where free enterprise can thrive, right? Getting our oil, LNG out to the world, which is be a huge boon to Canada. It's a crime that we haven't been doing it enough. So, at least behind what I consider to just be cynical politics, he's actually got some real solutions. But I'm not happy with any of it. I think it's all just stupid. I mean, in terms of the Pierre approach of just seeing, like, not wanting to stand out from the others on this issue, in terms of just that, the mask of the saber rattling. Maybe it is the right choice politically, but I don't think it's a good choice for handling this issue. Let's see. JM says, good points, RB. A little discipline and we'd both win. Exactly. Look, the United States and Canada are going to be trading partners right? Like, we're going to be each other's biggest trading partner. That's just the way that it's going to be. We're right next to each other. It can't be any other way. And any attempt to lean towards like the EU is just insane. I mean, the EU doesn't give a shit about Canada, right? They're just gonna extract everything that they can out of us. Doesn't make sense. I mean, the US is right here, right? We will have a good relationship with them. We're right next to them now, and we're always going to be, right? It's going to work out. I think really what we should be pushing for is greater integration on basically everything, not losing our sovereignty, but creating more of a North American bloc united against China. I think that makes a lot more sense than anything. And I think ultimately that's actually where Trump wants to take this. If we have to lose the dairy cartel in the process, I mean, that may be worth it. I mean, if we lose the dairy cartel for the benefit of every other industry in Canada, that may be worth it. And I keep hearing this because you have butter and milk and stuff, like 300%, 250 to 300% tariffs over quota. And I keep hearing this that, like, yeah, but they never import that much over quota anyway, so that's never paid. It's like, yes, because of the quota. That's why this stuff is so expensive in Canada, by the way. Yes, of course that it never actually gets up to that level because they keep it under quota. That's the point of the quota. That's its point. Yes. That's exactly why it's there. That's why Trump has a problem with it. How is that not obvious to everybody? Let's see. G Flet said, "Whose poll is this?" It was an Abacus poll. If Canada wanted to join the EU, if it was going to, I don't know. Maybe I'd take advantage of it to go to Hungary. They'd probably let me in. I think I'd be happier there. If Canada was going to join the EU, I would immediately start looking at how I can move to the States at that point, because then Canada would be completely screwed. EU would use us, would hollow us out. We'd just be an empty husk, and EU would not care, and the Europeans would not care. Turtle says, Mark Carney is a puppet fudging commies. He is exactly what he looks like and what he's always presented himself as an elite globalist, a technocrat, central banker, net zero fanatic, a radical progressive. That's what he is. He's never made any effort to not appear to be that. In fact, he's said it himself quite proudly. I mean, I've showed you guys the video where he says, well, I am he says that, well, I guess what was it? One of his weaknesses that he's seen as a elite globalist, and that's exactly what we need right now. I don't agree with that. I know he agrees with that. He likes that idea because he's that. But I think that when that gets out to enough people, you got to keep in mind here that politics is not the same in Canada as the States, and there's not the same level of interest. And there's a tiny percentage of the money involved. So while he was, it's not like during this Liberal leadership campaign, like everybody found out who Mark Carney is, right? Like he's not like as well known in Canada as like Kamala or something like that, right? I'd say easily half of Canadians have no idea who he is. Or maybe they could recognize him. Maybe if you showed them a picture, they could say, oh, it's a Carney, something Carney, but they will know nothing about him. That's coming, right? The getting to know Mark Carney part is coming. The scrutiny on Mark Carney is coming. And it's going to make a difference. Let's see. JM says, come on down to the U.S. Radio Baloney. We still need every rational human being we could get. I kind of feel like it's my destiny to end up down there at some point. But we'll have to see. I mean, what I would really like is Canada just to be the Canada I grew up in, which was a great country. But I'm not sure we can ever get back to that again. We'll see. Pierre saying he's got to make Canada the freest country in the world. Should I believe him? Should I believe him? Should I believe him when he says that? Not so much. Maybe. The most important issue to me in the election, I have to be honest, is free speech. If Mark Carney wins, channels like mine won't even exist. I'll have to shut it down, maybe set it so that it doesn't show in Canada and just do like a global one instead of, but definitely he will continue Trudeau's evil work on that front. If Pierre Poilievre gets rid of, the internet censorship bills, C11, C18, and I would really like to see some attempt to give us something closer to a First Amendment in Canada, which we just don't have. I was very happy with that, because then if you don't have that, you just there's nothing at that point. You just give up. Might as well just leave. Let's see. Rosie says deep state goal is to remove all sovereignty, one world government. Yes. And that is Mark Carney right there. The UN climate finance envoy. Let's see. Turtle says Washington state Dems are trying to take our Second Amendment rights away. Passed in the House in the middle of the night. On Saturday, they are suing sheriffs for helping ICE. Good Lord. Unbelievable crap. Just super commie. I find it weird how places like Washington, which, like outside of Seattle, it's a pretty rugged place, right? And I guess outside of like Seattle, it is fairly conservative, right? It's just you got these big cities that are just straight up, just all, Democrat all the way through. Most of whom don't even know what they're voting for. Nevada, how you doing? JDL, how you doing? All right. Let's see. Was replying to your one world government comment. When I was much younger, yeah, I kind of had some idea. Well, I just thought that it was inevitable that it would lead to like a one world government thing, which I don't think is inevitable now. Let's see. Nevada says, where's Noodles? We're just doing boating shows today. Let's see. Nevada says, I hear there's a meeting this Thursday in D.C. with Doug Ford. Yeah, that's what I heard as well. Hopefully he doesn't screw it up. But Doug Ford should be the kind of guy that Trump would actually like. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Let's see. All right, I'm going to skip to the end of the chat here. Chat's going along pretty healthy now. Let's see. For some reason, I don't know why it's not showing up on the screen, but oh well. All right, let's move on. I'm just gonna get going here. I've already explained why Canada joining the EU would be totally idiotic and insane. Let's see. So I want to talk about this again. So here from Cotilac. Good morning. Fuck, I'm pissed. Farmers in Western Canada still hold 6.2 million. What is that? Megatons of what is that? Anyway, a lot of canola on farms. China imposed a 100% tariff, but the market took $125 off the table. China's imposed 100% tariffs on Canada. In fact, we've got another one here. Where is it? Hold on. In fact, hold on. Let's just pull up a 1 second.
Fact check.
One second, you guys. I'll be right Right back with you. Okay. Retaliatory tariffs imposed by China on Canadian canola causes uncertainty for Manitoba farmers. So I thought imposing tariffs was evil, like when anybody other than Canada does it. Why are we not hearing more about this? So I guess, okay, so the rationale right now, the reality right now, apparently in Canada, is that when Canada imposes tariffs and high tariffs, that's great. When anybody else does it, it's evil, unless that other country is China, in which case nobody's going to talk about it, and the media is going to largely ignore it. And it's certainly not going to lead off the news headlines every night about how China is trying to destroy Canada. For some reason, I don't know why that would be. For some reason, they're going to soft pedal it on China for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know. It certainly doesn't have anything to do with Chinese election interference, Chinese, interfering in our elections, China interfering in Canada in general, and politics and everything. It's nothing to do with that whatsoever. Definitely nothing to do with Chinese influence in Canada. I wonder how much influence China has on Canadian media. I'd like to see an investigation into that. So, 100% tariffs will take effect March 20th in response to Ottawa's tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. All right, so Canada put tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. The media didn't tell us that we were all evil for doing that, and it was monstrous, and blah, blah, blah. This is really going under the radar. Media is particularly uninterested in really informing the public on this. Here is a CBC News article, and they do write stuff on this, but being a CBC News article, they know that nobody will actually see this, right? They're not going to, lead off the news on this for, a week in a row. A Manitoba farmer says the 100% retaliatory tariffs China is putting on canola oil and oil cakes are causing additional uncertainty in an agriculture industry dealing with the potential impact of U.S. tariffs on canola products. China's Commerce Ministry announced Saturday the tariffs will go into effect on March 20th in retaliation for Canada's 100% tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles and a 25% levy on Chinese aluminum and steel products imposed October 1. So maybe countries are doing this kind of stuff all the time. And maybe they just kind of keep cool heads about it and don't act hysterical and deranged about it normally. Interesting. Let's see. Bruce Delgarno, who farms canola and other crops near Newdale, Manitoba, said Canada exports approximately 2.5 million tons of oil cakes to China each year, which is used to feed livestock or be ground into oil meal. So again, we don't need to go into this in detail. It's just, you can see tariff stuff is happening all the time, and I guess it's just selective which ones they decide to totally freak out over. These are 100% tariffs, by the way, on Canadian agriculture. 100%. But let's get into, okay. So, Doug Ford, hold on. Ontario suspends 25% export tax on electricity sent to the U.S. All right. So from Rupa Subramania here, Doug Ford levying a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S., even after Trump paused the tariffs, was for domestic political reasons, obviously. Ford is clearly positioning himself, if the Conservatives crash and burn in the next general election, to pick up the pieces as kept in Canada. 100%. This didn't last very long, though, this 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S. Trump says he will double tariffs on steel and aluminum in retaliation for Ontario energy surcharge. And then Ontario suspends 25% export tax. Well, it's a surcharge, really, on electricity sent to the U.S. So that didn't last long. So the Tough Guy Act didn't last very long. I mean, look, like, I know it's appealing to be like saber rattling and all that, but we just have to deal with reality. We're not going to win a trade war with the US. It's just stupid, right? Trump decides to flex American economic muscle, and Doug Ford has absolutely no option but to immediately back down. So, what was the point of it all? Politics was the point of it all. Here's something from Maxime Bernier, who is the one Canadian leader who's making sense on this. Now, Maxime Bernier, who I quite like, has no chance of winning the next election. But he's very good on this. I think it kind of frees you up to just be kind of more honest when you're at like 2-3% in the polls. That tends to change as you get more popular. But in any case, he says, is it that difficult to understand? We're not going to win a trade war with the U.S. Obviously, we're hurting our own economy 10 times more than theirs with these silly retaliatory tariffs and giving Trump just another pretext to escalate the dispute. We should unilaterally stop all forms of retaliation. Then we should take Trump at his word and tell him we accept his idea of having reciprocal tariffs and that the best situation for both countries is therefore to lower all tariffs. This is where it's going anyway, right? A greater integration is where it's going, not Canada joining the EU. That's idiotic. You don't do that when you live right next door to the world's largest economy. It's too stupid. Maybe it's not too stupid for the Liberals. Maybe it's not too stupid for Carney. I mean, he is a self-admitted elitist globalist, but for any normal person, it's just too idiotic to even contemplate, right? I think Max is right on this. And that's where it's going to end up going, right? All of this bluster from Doug Ford went nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. Let's see.
Let me be clear. I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely.
And then I will not hesitate to immediately not do that as soon as there's even a hint of retaliation. That's exactly what just happened. Like, I want Canada to do well, right? I don't think that the current strategy of trying to rally up political support through a fake tough guy act is in Canada's interest. I think what's in Canada's interest is to be smart and to be quiet and to be thoughtful and to just be disciplined and to say repeatedly over and over again, the USMCA is coming up in 2026. All right. Renegotiations are coming up then. Let's move that forward and we'll deal with these issues. And actually, let's reduce tariffs between the two countries. Trump obviously is going to be in favor of that, right? If we get rid of the 300% tariffs on over quota dairy, for instance, that sort of stuff. Where else was I going with that? I better have another sip of ranch juice. But just take a steady, sensible approach to it and just keep saying, let's sit down and formally renegotiate these terms. That would be the smart thing to do, right? What do you like saber rattling, chest thumping to Trump? I think that there's going to be a pretty predictable response to that from Trump. I think we know exactly what he's going to do. And of course, his response is exactly what they wanted, because then they can drum up more nationalist fervor, even though the leftists hate nationalism. So I don't know, except when it works for them, just like everything else. All right, let's move on. All right, what are you guys saying? Turtle says, hold on, Chinese balloons and Trujina. Where is Trujillo going to go? He's going to formally step down from prime minister this week. They're saying maybe this weekend. Where is he going to go? I think he goes straight to Davos, I think. Or maybe China. Maybe he'll just go live in China. Let's see. Let's see. Turtle says trans mafia are replacing BLM down here. They shut down BLM in DC. Well, yeah, they got rid of the big mural, the big thing on the road. Yeah, the trans thing, the Trantifa is really weird. That's just a really weird thing. Because apparently, like, all of Antifa just all became trans, apparently. It's so strange. Weird, stranger than fiction. You've got all of these tranny, like, revolutionary communists running around. It's bizarre. I mean, it's funny, but they are dangerous people. A lot of them are extremely violent. Let's see. Nevada says USA would help Canada, low tariffs, no tariffs, etc. EU would screw you with taxes and regulations. Yeah, in case you missed it, I went through for the Canadian people to just give them a little taste of what they can. For the Canadians that have been, saber rattling and talking about how we're never giving up our sovereignty, 51st state. Which I guarantee are the same people that would want to join the EU. I just gave them a little bit of a primer here on all of the sovereignty they're going to be giving up. Although socialism, so it's good, right? That seems to be the way the left works now, right? As long as it feels progressive and the person reading off the teleprompter on the evening news would approve, it's good. Let's see. Let's see. JDL says Serbia is pretty based. That would be the only thing, right? So, if we join the EU, then I could maybe go to like Serbia or Hungary or something. Hungary's based. Let's see. Rumbum says wouldn't even be that big a change. Libs here have been doing a pretty good job with that so far. You're talking about joining the EU? Yeah. But once you join the EU, that's it. You've given up your sovereignty from that point. And if you elect the wrong party, well, you look at Romania, right? They'll just decide, no, you don't get an election anymore. Turtle says Carney will be a fart in the wind like Harris. That's what I think. I agree with that 100%. Once he gets into the kind of the scrutiny and the rigors of a real federal election campaign, like hiding doesn't work. Hiding like he did during the Liberal leadership campaign doesn't work. We saw that with Harris. That's not going to work in Canada either. He has to get out there. And once people find out who he is and see what a globalist hobgoblin that he really is, it's going to go down again. There's been scares like in like 84 and 93, which have just been total mirages. Let's see. Nevada's saying, well, what are you saying, Nevada? He's saying, someone tell this girl she needs a bikini in order to get an invite into a boat. I don't know. She seems nice. JDL says tax universities and colleges. I will add to that. No public funding for universities and colleges. They've proven that they do not deserve it. In fact, they are just a harm to society at this point. Let's see. Rosie asks JJ, really? You would not invite her onto a boat in this nice dress? Nevada says, no way, Rosie. Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on that. Let's see. Noodle. I don't have noodles racked up, so we're just going with the boating video today. Well, let's change it to something else. Hold on. What else have we got? Well, let's watch the other boating video. This is a nice boating video as well. Good boating programming. MHJ35 says, Richie, hysterical and deranged are great words in these times, and they're totally appropriate. They describe what's happening exactly. Let's see. Rumbum says, PPC has been on point since the party started. It's just a shame that enough Canadians are idiots. I think the problem for the PPC is the strategy, the political strategy. And I was listening to somebody, was it White Claypool from National Telegraph, talking about it, and what they really need to do, in his opinion, was focus on a few seats, just getting a few seats instead of spreading everything out way too thin. Right? It's like spreading out, you have too small of an army spread out over too long of a front. It's not going to work. It's just too diluted. And that might be the way to do it. I think maybe is that how Reform did it in the UK? They started out small, just getting a couple of seats and then grew from there. Turtle says, hey, let's go to the boot. Let's see. Nevada says, Carney worked for Goldman Sachs. Yes, he did. Coming out of Harvard or Oxford or whatever. Went into that. Let's see. Drama says, the girl on the boat has a baby face. The they-them energy girl has a Doug Ford face. Well, let's take a look.
They, them, energy. They, them, energy. They, them, energy. They, them, energy.
Are we sure that's not Doug Ford? Are we sure? All right. Actually, you know what, you guys? I need to take just like a couple minutes break. Hold on. I'll be right back. You guys know the deal. I'll leave you with the boating programming. All right. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Anybody not subscribed to the channel right now, go ahead and subscribe. Super important. Also, like the stream. Liking the stream is extremely important. You have to do that. Very important. Didn't anybody tell you that? Just go ahead and do it right now. Now you know. Point of interest before we continue. I'm really noticing the Carney bots in my comments on YouTube. I'm noticing a lot of left bots or Chinese bots or woke bots, whatever you want to call them. There's a major increase of, like weird names with like a bunch of numbers behind it, and then just stuff that looks canned, stuff that never actually deals with anything that's actually in the video, nothing specific, just obviously bot activity. So it's really ramping up now, leading up to the Canadian election. So, and that's to be expected. And we've seen it like in the chat as well. We've seen quite a bit of it. So, and I expect that to get worse. Turtle says, seeking master's degree in gender studies since we need to find out why the frogs are gay. Why the frogs are gay. I blame Lady Gaga. Nevada says, see, Bikini got on a boat. You would let her on the boat because of the bikini, of course. All right. Turtle says, auto sex bots. JDL says, make Canada great again. Make Canada Canada again. But Drama says we'd have to go back before the first true China. Yep. What are you going to do? Bots are Kami's best friend. Don't have to pay them. Well, somebody's paying for the bots. I guarantee you there's a lot of, I mean, it would just be totally naive to imagine the Chinese government. Let's see, they interfered in the 2019 election and the 2021 election. Those are the ones we know about. They interfered in the liberal leadership race just like, a month ago. I think it's fairly safe to assume, I think you'd have to be fairly naive to assume that China isn't running a giant bot operation promoting Mark Carney and attacking the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre. I think you have to, at this point, just be totally naive. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? The Liberal government has shown they don't mind. They don't mind at all. Mark Carney is not going to mind the same way that Justin Trudeau didn't mind. If it helps them, they're happy. All right. And then when they get caught, right, they just appoint a liberal to chair something like Justice Hogue, and who'll just say, oh, yeah, nothing to see here. No, it's all fine. It's actually okay. No, it's all good. Don't worry about it. Just stop talking about it. You don't even think about it. No, I looked at it. It's cool. Totally cool. Don't worry. I looked at it. It's cool. So corrupt. It's just unbelievable what Canada's turned into. Let's see. JM says the U.S. deserves some criticism. Lefty governments fall faster when not propped up with our lopsided tariffs. Well, I mean, there is truth. There is some truth in what Trump is saying. Some of it's, I think, unfair. I think some of the justifications I hear from here are also just not realistic. From Canada, like I keep hearing that, okay, you've got the 250 to 300% tariffs on dairy products coming from the United States after quotas. So there's a certain quota, a certain amount you're allowed to bring in. Then over that, you're going to have these massive tariffs. And I keep hearing this, well, they never reaches that level of those tariffs anyway. To which I just say, well, yes, that's the point of the tariffs, is to stop it going over quota, right? That's the point of the tariffs. It's to limit the amount of dairy that can come into Canada, which is one of the reasons why dairy is so expensive in Canada, with our dairy cartel here, which is being protected with these tariffs. That doesn't seem very complicated to me. It just seems the point of the tariffs is to prevent more from coming in, over quota from coming in, obviously. I think that we'd be better off just minimizing the tariffs as much as possible on both sides. I mean, we're right next to each other. It just seems kind of stupid not to. Like, we don't have to ship across oceans to each other, right? We're right there. Nevada says, Wisconsin has enough dairy for the world. I mean, you could have a more reasonable tariff, But in any case, let's move on. So, okay, we did enough on that. Let's go to Mark Carney now. So here is what's his name again? My brain just isn't working. I'm tired. Mulcair. So here's Mulcair. He used to lead the NDP in Canada, which has really gone off the far left cliff, along with the Liberals in Canada. But they kicked him out to make room for Jugmeat. I guess he wasn't diverse enough. And they did actually better with him as well, because he's not crazy. But here's from Marco Navarro Gini. When Mark Carney brings up Pierre's security clearance, he's telegraphing his political inheritance from the Justin Trudeau regime. It's still Telford's voice, just on different lips. So I haven't even watched this myself yet. I'm going to watch this with you for the first time.
They were anything but spontaneous, and it was a planned hit on Poilievre to distract. Over the weekend, the long weekend, we learned that there was a big tussle still going on with India over foreign interference. Well, lo and behold, on Thanksgiving Monday press conference with the RCMP and with Mr. Trudeau, when he got questions about his leadership, he said, well, we're not going to talk about petty internal politics. This is big stuff for Canadians. So he's been trying to distract from his own problems. I'm not saying, by the way, and I'm not even suggesting that the RCMP did this to help Trudeau, nor that the accusations against India aren't serious. They are. But the timing of this is something that was clearly controllable and controlled to help Mr. Trudeau. Same thing with yesterday's announcement. What he did in that hearing is he tried to use the bombshell. I'd use a more high school term of a stink bomb that he tried to throw at the leader of the official opposition. You know, Marcia, I know you're aware of this. I used to be the leader of then Her Majesty's loyal opposition, and the main job of the leader of the opposition is to hold the government to account. I agree completely with Poilievre's decision not to take the bait. Trudeau's been trying for a year and a half to restrain what Pierre Poilievre can do by trying to say, come and get this private briefing, and oh, by the way, then you'll be held to an official secret, and you won't be able to talk about this anymore. Trudeau doesn't want to talk about the fact that there were known cases, and they're coming out clearly, where the Liberals sat on information, refused to issue warrants and the like with regard to Liberals. So they're trying to distract and say, oh, look at this guy Poilievre. He doesn't even want.
Yeah, so this was all before the Liberal-appointed Justice Hogue looked at all of the foreign interference and says, there's nothing really going on here. Nothing going on here. But yeah, so it's a talking point about, okay, so foreign interference, there's classified files, there's a security clearance you need to get beyond the security clearance you already have to get to be an MP, which Pierre has. But once you look at those files, you get that security clearance and you look at those files, you can't talk about it anymore. It's a trap that Trudeau was trying to get Pierre Poilievre to fall into, and every Liberal pretends they don't understand this. Let's move in. What do we got here? Ryan Garrettson says, Carney basically alluded to using emergency powers during his speech today. He went about it a bit differently than outright saying it by using words like move fast and it's going to be tough, but I think we should be expecting it. Would he use the Emergencies Act? I don't know.
And something that my government is going to do is to use all of the powers of the federal government, including the emergency powers of the federal government, to accelerate the major projects that we need in order to build this economy and take on the Americans.
So what emergency powers exactly he's talking about, I don't know. What projects he's talking about? Is it, 1,000 cricket farms? Probably. Is it 1,000 windmills that aren't going to work, or solar panels in Canada that aren't going to work? Probably. It's not going to be oil and gas, though. I can tell you that much. He's already promised Quebec that they're not getting any pipelines there. So, and it's his whole life is just net zero. Like he wants to end oil and gas. He wants to end that in Canada. He says it in his book, Values, right? He talks about Alberta is going to be hardest hit by his policies. Well, why? Well, because it's oil and gas and coal as well. That's why. That's what. It's not going to be hardest hit because he's going to actually expedite projects to utilize those resources. Of course not. I don't know. He's got some magical plan for Alberta where I don't know. It's just going to be like all roadside carbon credit kiosks or something, and I don't know, cricket farms and windmills, I guess. So, I'm just going to skip this for now. Let's hear a bit of Pierre Poilievre. So, from David Creighton here, in a blistering attack on Mark Carney, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre outlines the new Liberal leader's hypocrisy as the chairman of Brookfield Assets who invested in fossil fuels. Well, not in Canada. In like Brazil and the UAE, they invested in oil in fossil fuels and pipelines. Not in Canada, though. He wanted to be part of his net zero thing. So, and as head of the ESG department of Brookfield Asset Management, of course, well, ESG, environmental social governance. That's not that's excluding fossil fuels from investment, right? So not good for Canada. Let's take a look at what Pierre Poilievre has to say about this.
But he's just like Justin, and he's more of the same. We have the same Liberal MPs, the same Liberal advisors, the same Liberal promises, who will produce the same Liberal results. Doubling housing costs, doubling the debt, doubling lineups at food banks, enriching the global elites at the expense of the working class, and making our economy more helpless and reliant on the Americans than ever before. Now, Mark Carney is trying to hide from his record over the last 5 years of advising Trudeau in favor of raising carbon taxes, money printing inflation, and blocking resource projects, all while he moved his company headquarters and jobs to the United States. It's ironic. Mr. Carney is trying to distract from his many scandals and conflicts of interest, as well as his disastrous record as Justin Trudeau's economic advisor, by talking about Trump. He's the guy that sold out to Trump. 6 days after Donald Trump threatened Canada with tariffs to steal our jobs, Mark Carney announced to Brookfield shareholders that he would move his headquarters from Canada to New York. And when you asked him about it, he lied to your face. We got it in writing, and we proved it. He sold out Canada. He put his profit ahead of our people, and he did exactly what Donald Trump wanted. Never before have we had a prime minister so conflicted and compromised, and yet so little scrutinized. Just like when he supported carbon taxes in Canada while investing in American coal. He opposed Canadian pipelines while his company bought Middle East pipelines. He has millions of dollars of financial interests that run against Canada's national interests. He gets rich, making Canadians poor. You can be sure about one thing. Donald Trump's going to have a briefing on his desk of all of Mark Carney's American investments. We need to break our dependence on the Americans by building east-west pipelines. We need more interprovincial trade. We need to unleash our free enterprise system to reverse the helplessness that the Liberals have caused over the last 10 years of tax and keep it in the ground extremism. So more than anything, we need to bring back the Canadian promise. In a country...
See, the thing about this is that it's not just that this is the right way to go. It's that it's the only way to go, right? If you want to reverse this trend of declining GDP per capita in Canada, right? This is the only way to go. That's the only thing you can do, right? Your economy is energy, right? If you don't have energy, if you don't have cheap, plentiful energy, you don't have an economy, right? We are in the fortunate position, right? We have lots of natural resources. We have so much that we can send it around the world, not only to the United States, although that's always going to be the most important destination, but we can send it all over the world, right? We have that opportunity. It's not just that this makes sense. It's that it's the only thing that makes sense. And as for Carney's business interests, right? Well, he's just put everything into a blind trust. We don't know what's in it still. And the blind trust, well, I mean, he knows what's in it. I doubt very much whoever is going to be handling the blind trust is going to totally turn it upside, his investments upside down, right? Mark Carney has been on the net zero train for a long time, for many, many years now, right? UN, COP26, UN climate finance envoy, head of ESG at Brookfield Asset Management, right? His interests are deeply tied in with green industry, green products, right? With companies being forced to spend, collectively trillions of dollars to retrofit plants, that sort of thing, to fit his stringent climate goals, his stringent climate regulations. He's deeply entwined. I would say he has to be at this point inextricably entwined with this, not only reputationally, but in terms of financially. There's a reason we're not going to know what's actually in that financial report from Mark Carney until after whenever the election is. There's a reason. If there wasn't a problem, we'd know. He'd show us. That's why we don't know. That's why we're not going to know until after the election, right? These are excellent points. But again, above all of it, like creating a business-friendly environment and utilizing our natural resources is the only thing to do. We're not going to become a wealthy country, or we're not going to improve the GDP per capita in Canada with solar panels or cricket farms. It's just not going to happen, right? What Pierre Poilievre is saying is the only sensible thing, which really all the other countries in the world know, except for the ones that are deindustrializing themselves, like Germany, for instance, or as the UK has been doing. All right. Anyway. Let's see. He's not just like Justin. He's a million times worse. Well, the thing about Mark Carney and his relationship with Justin Trudeau is that, and the Liberal Party and its relationship with both, is that, we've been saying that the Liberal Party is really the Justin Trudeau party. It just become a Justin Trudeau cult. But behind that, we now know that he'd been advising, and this had been in the news. It just wasn't really Mark Carney. Who cares, right? But it's become more important. This has become a more salient point now that he's been advising Trudeau officially since 2020, probably on a more unofficial basis long before that, because they've known each other for a long time. So Justin Trudeau obviously knows nothing about economics. That's just pretty clear at this point, right? Hold on one second.
I have a slight learning disability.
Justin Trudeau doesn't know anything. He's the guy who said we'd have to forgive him if he doesn't think about economic policy and the budget will balance itself. He doesn't know anything. Where was he getting it all from? Now it turns out we know he was getting it all from Mark Carney. Everything that Trudeau's been doing has been Mark Carney. Mark Carney is woke. He's come out in defense of woke since he's been running, since after he started running for Liberal leader. This has really been Mark Carney's party, and Justin Trudeau has been the skin suit that he's been wearing. I'm not saying that, Trudeau's narcissism has nothing to do with and his own stupidity and incompetence doesn't have anything to do with it. That's of course that's contributed to the state that Canada's in now, right? But really, it looks very much like economically, at least economically, Mark Carney has been the one calling the shots. It looks obvious. Like Chrystia Freeland as the finance minister, she was a journalist. She had no qualifications for that. It's been Mark Carney calling the shots the entire time, right? Immigration, well, Mark Carney's a globalist. He loves immigration. Whose idea was it, all of this, to really ramp up the temporary foreign workers and the subsidies, either directly subsidizing wages for foreign workers to not hire Canadians, or indirectly subsidizing it through like free training, for instance, or tax credits, which are all included in that. Again, to encourage companies to hire non-Canadians. Was Carney behind that? He's a globalist. He loves that shit. Like now he's talking about, oh, we're gonna, have to reduce immigration. Well, to what? I mean, Trudeau said he's putting hard caps on immigration now. Yeah, it was still over 150,000 more permanent residents a year than when he took office. Oh, thanks, Justin. That's going to work out great. Carney behind that? Globalists love flooding countries with people from other countries and other parts of the world. But I think at this point we have to say at least economically, the Liberal Party has really been Mark Carney's party all along. So I think we could know what to expect. How about this one? So from Mark Slapinski, Pierre Poilievre called out the World Economic Forum while slamming frequent flyers like the unelected Prime Minister Mark Carney. Do you think Poilievre will stand up to globalist influence? You just don't know until he gets in. I'm cautiously optimistic.
In the past several times, you have denounced the World Economic Forum, and you've made it clear to pledge that if your party forms government, you will ban your cabinet ministers from being involved with the World Economic Forum. Yet, I'm also aware of many Canadians who applaud you for saying that, but also have reservations on whether or not the claim is authentic because they see images of your name being on the World Economic Forum site, and also because you worked closely with former MP John Baird, who at one point was a World Economic Forum young global leader in a campaign. So my question for clarification purposes, for those concerned about foreign globalist organizations potentially encroaching on our nation's sovereignty, does your pledge to ban cabinet ministers from being associated with or involved with the WEF expand to those you hire as staff as well as advisors?
Yes. No staff, no ministers, no MPs in my caucus will be involved whatsoever in that organization. It is a group of high-flying, high-tax, high-carbon hypocrites who all got on their private jets to fly off to a remote ski village where they talked about how working class people should not be allowed to heat their homes or drive their pickup trucks. I'm not going to work for a group of globalist billionaires who serve their own interests at the expense of everyone else. And I'd like to specifically point out Mark Carney. Here he was, celebrating the central banks who caused the inflation by printing trillions of dollars so that people like multimillionaires like him could have their asset values inflated while the purchasing power of working class people and seniors was wasted away by inflation, a massive wealth transfer from the have-nots to the have-yachts.
We will ban all of my ministers and top government officials from any involvement in the World Economic Forum. We will ban all of our ministers and members of parliament from any involvement in the World Economic Forum.
And I'm also going to ban all my ministers from any involvement in the World Economic Forum. We're not.
So I like the fact that it's so forthright, because it's awfully hard to walk back from this. There's no equivocating going on here, right? It's just no, banned. We're not going to be a part of this. There are a bunch of jet-setting elitists who the rules don't apply to them. The rules they want to set for you are not going to apply to them, right? I like that it's just so forthright. It's like, no, no. I like that. Again, this is hard. This is walking this back would be political disaster for him. So this gives me confidence that he means what he says here. Yet I'm cautiously optimistic about Pierre. I've been less impressed with him recently since the tariff stuff started, but his solutions are actually, I mean, when you get behind the saber rattling, the tariff saber rattling stuff, the solutions are things that Canada just has to do anyway, right? We're always going to be, the United States, of course, is going to always be our biggest trading partner, obviously, right? We're incredibly fortunate to be right next to the largest market in the world. Culturally, we're very similar, right? I mean, it just obviously makes sense, but it certainly wouldn't hurt diversifying a bit, maybe getting some LNG out to Europe, out to Japan as well. We've got enough. We can do it. But in any case, I'm cautiously optimistic about Pierre, and I'm really hoping he doesn't let me down. I do think he's going to win the next election, and I think he's going to win handily. I'm not panicking at all right now, as many Canadians are. Let's see. So what's this here from? This is from yesterday. So here's Poilievre again. Cat Canada posted this. He's saying that Carney supported carbon taxes in Canada while investing in American coal. Uh-oh. Well, let's take a look. Thing you have to remember about Mark Carney is that whatever happens in the election, when his political career is over, he's going right back to the UN, right back to the World Economic Forum. These are his friends. These are his people. He's going straight back to, Brookfield Asset Management. He's going straight back to some massive super billion-dollar asset management fund, right? He's going back to all of that again. None of this actually matters to Mark Carney, right? It's not going to affect his life. And what happens to Canadians is not going to affect his life. Let's continue.
Now, Mark Carney is trying to hide from his record over the last 5 years of advising Trudeau in favor of raising carbon taxes, money printing inflation, and blocking resource projects, all while he moved his company headquarters and jobs to the United States. It's ironic. Mr. Carney is trying to distract from his many scandals and conflicts of interest, as well as his disastrous record as Justin Trudeau's economic advisor, by talking about Trump. He's the guy that sold out to Trump. 6 days after Donald Trump threatened.
All right, this is the video we just watched earlier. So we don't need that. What's this one here? While Mark Carney has long called for Canada's oil and gas industry to be destroyed, which he has been, Carney has been investing in Nigerian oil. Destroying oil producers in Canada kills Canadian jobs, but it's made Mark Carney a lot of money at Canada's expense. The thing is, with these people, with these, World Economic Forum ghouls like Mark Carney, is that none of this is going to affect them. Eat the bugs. He's not going to eat the bugs. He's going to have nice steak. Well, you're not, right? You're not allowed to own a car anymore. You have to share it with 50 people, right? He's never going to share a car. He's going to have a driver and his own car and a driver. He's going to drive him around everywhere, right? You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. He's going to own lots and he's going to be very happy. And he doesn't care about you, right? He's a central planner. He sees people as bugs, as insects. He sees Canada as a big ant farm. There's a big ant hill, right? And he's that kid with he's that kid on the hot summer day with the magnifying glass, giggling to himself. He is a self-described elitist globalist, right? His plans are for you, not for him. All right, let's get back to the chat for a second. And I think at this point, we'll cut off the YouTube portion of this. And then maybe we'll do some ads over on Rumble. If you're watching on YouTube right now, I always cut it off early. So right now we're streaming on Rumble, we're streaming on YouTube, we're streaming on X, we're streaming on Locals. The YouTube portion, I always cut short early just for censorship reasons. And there's always problems on the back end. And YouTube is just, I don't know. Some people call it Commie Tube, Stalin Tube, I don't know, Mao Tube, stuff like that. I don't know. Why do they say that? Who knows why? But anyway, we always have to shut it off a bit early. In fact, you've got an extra this time. It's an hour and 51 minutes. But please join us over on Rumble. And there's always, the chat is very lively on Rumble. There's always way more people watching it on Rumble. It's fantastic stuff. If you go over, you're going to get to see, we're going to talk about the woke mind virus, which is, that's going to be a really interesting one. We've got all kinds of extra stuff. We've got memes. We got some Farage there. We've got some comedy. We've got some Norm Macdonald. We got lots of crazy stuff. We've got International Women's Day. That's a weird way to celebrate it. So join us. Join us on Rumble. And even if you don't, I want you to know that you are loved by Radio Baloney. You are loved. You are accepted. But come see the rest of the show on Rumble. Or you can watch it on X or Locals, whatever you want to do. But we're shutting down Stalin Tube right now. So we'll see you next time. Friday,